Hello, my name is Vides, and today we are going to play a game called the Language Code, which was made by me. And I am really excited because this is the first time that I'm going to play it with you. And this is a game about language and the brain and how these two elements work. Also, this game has 8 missions, and you have to complete each mission in order for you to get a letter every time that you finish one mission. And those letters are going to help you to make a code that you are going to enter at the end of the game, so you can finally exit the game. So I will also explain why I choose the answers that I choose and why the others are incorrect. So let's begin with the game. Right, so we have here our introduction, and let's start with the escape room. And we have our chart here, but the other missions are locked. So the only one unlocked is mission number 1. So let's begin. And it says mission 1, the brain map. Identify the 4 areas of the brain related to language to earn your first exit code. And it says that it has 2 items. So question number 1, I am crucially involved in understanding a spoken language. And this one is the awareness area. Why? Because this is the one in charge of understanding language or getting the message. So it cannot be the arcuate fasciculus because this one is in charge of connecting the awareness area with the broadcast area. It cannot be the motor cortex because this one is in charge of producing language physically. And it cannot be broadcast area also because this one is in charge of producing language. So let's choose awareness area. And the question number 2 says, I am involved in the generation of a spoken language. So this one is broadcast area because, as I was saying 2 seconds ago, broadcast area is the one in charge of the generation of a spoken language. And it says, I control the physical articulation of a speech through muscles involved in the face, jaw, tongue, and larynx. And this one is the motor cortex. Why? Because this one, it helps us produce language, but now physically it's spoken. So this is the answer, and it cannot be the arcuate fasciculus because this one is in charge of connecting the awareness area with the broadcast area. So let's choose this one. And it says the question number 4. I form a crucial connection between 2 important language areas. And this one is the arcuate fasciculus, and those areas are the awareness area and the broadcast area. All right, so we just finished our first item. So let's go to the second one. And it says, put the words in the correct order. Now that you have identified the 4 brain components, now put them in order in which a spoken word is processed. So the first one is awareness area. Why? Because this one is in charge of understanding. So this is the first one that receives the message, and it's in charge of understanding said message. Then it's the second one is arcuate fasciculus. Why? Because this one, after the awareness area has understood the message, then it sends it to the broadcast area through the arcuate fasciculus. And after that, the third one is the broca. Why? Because after the arcuate fasciculus sends that message to the broca it starts to produce language. And after that, we have the motor cortex, which is in charge of producing language, but now physically. This is in charge of sending the message to move to our muscles, like our jaw, or tongue, or larynx. So let's send it, and it is correct. Now we have our first letter of our code, and it is an L. And let's remember this because we are going to use it at the end of the game, okay? So now we have unlocked the second mission. Let's go. And it says mission 2, the mystery of the papers, and it just has 1 item. So, we have to drag the papers to find the correct answer. And it says which situation best illustrates Wernicke's aphasia phenomenon. Let's remember that Wernicke's is the area in charge of understanding. So this is going to give us a clue to choose the correct paper. So let's read the papers. It says a speaker says fire distinguisher instead of fire extinguisher. This is malapropism, and it happens when we are speaking fast or when we are tired. This is some type of errors that we do when we are speaking, and it is not Wernicke's aphasia. So this says a speaker knows the meaning of a person's name and remembers that it has 3 syllables, but temporarily cannot retrieve the name. So this is a tip of the tongue phenomenon, and this happens when we kind of almost get it. We almost have it there, but we cannot remember. So it's not the right answer. It says listener hears grape tape and interprets it as grape ape. So this is something that happens when we don't interpret the message really well, but this is not Wernicke's aphasia. So a patient speaks fluently but has difficulty understanding the spoken language. So as you can see, it says that they have problems understanding the spoken language. And this happens when we have a problem in our Wernicke's area. So this is Wernicke's aphasia. All right, so question 2, which situation best illustrates tip of the tongue phenomenon? And I was telling you that this is the answer because, well, it says that they kind of remember certain things like the syllables. Sometimes we remember how it sounds, or maybe that it's like similar to other word, but we cannot remember. So this happens sometimes to many of us, and this is a tip of the tongue phenomenon. All right. So, question 3: which situation best illustrates a slip of the ear phenomenon? So, is this one a listener hears great tape and interprets it as great ape? Well, the listener heard something wrong, and sometimes this happens when there's a lot of noise. Maybe the other person spoke really fast, or maybe we just didn't listen very well, and this is a slip of the ear phenomenon. It cannot be a speaker says fire distinguisher because we are talking about hearing and not about speaking, right? And let's choose this paper. And the last one says, which situation best illustrates malapropism? And it's this one because, well, this happens when we are speaking too fast, or maybe when we are tired, or other context. Sometimes we're speaking so fast that we produce the other words wrong. But these are some errors that happens to us sometimes, right? And this is a malapropism. All right, so we just finished the second mission item, and well, we just got our second letter, letter A, and let's go to the next page. And well, we just unlocked mission 3. Let's go. All right, so the mission number 3 is tongue-twisted evidence. The player must identify and distinguish the 3 types of a slip of the tongue by analyzing examples of speech errors. It has 2 items, and let's go. It says the exercise 1. A speaker wants to say favorite song, but accidentally says favorite phone. So this one is perseveration because, well, it usually happens when you make a mistake by confusing the F or the first sound of the first word with the second word. So that's why the sound ends up and in the song in phone instead of song. So let's choose that one. All right, so the exercise number 2, a speaker wants to say Roman numeral, but accidentally says Roman numeral. So this one is anticipation, and this one happens when you are, where you confuse the first sound of the second word by putting it in the first word. So that's, instead of Roman, you say Noman because the N was here in numeral. So this is anticipation. All right, and it says 2 pieces of evidence identified, 1 remains. So the one remaining is exchange, and it says a speaker wants to say feel better, but accidentally says feel better. So this happens when you change the sounds that are at the beginning of each word. As you can see, the better changed to the feel, it says bill, and the F to better, that says better. So this is an exchange of sounds, right? All right, so let's go to the last item, and it says the evidence has been mixed up, match each speech error with the correct classification. So favorite phone, we know that this was a perseveration, an exchange of the first sound to the second word. So it's perseveration. Then we have Roman numeral, but we know that it's an anticipation. This happens that the second word, we are saying the sound of the second word at the beginning. And lastly, we have Bill Feather, that is an exchange of sounds, right? So it says mission complete. You identify the 3 types of slips of the tongue, and we have earned the 3rd letter of the code, that it's N. So let's go to our chart, and it says that we can play now in mission 4. And mission 4 says, did you hear that? And it has 3 items. So let's go to the first item, exercise 1, and it says, a listener hears great tape but interprets it as great ape. So we just learned that in one of the other items, and this is a slip of the ear error, right? Where we just misinterpret what we are hearing. Right, let's go to the next one. It says exercise 2 out of 2. In a slip of the ear, the speaker necessarily produces the wrong word. Well, it's not true because, the slip of the ear, the speaker does not necessarily produce the wrong word. The problem is that the listener interprets the speech differently from what was actually said. So it says, amazing, you have finished the first item. Let's go to the next one. And well, it says, listen to the audio and choose what was actually said. Right, we know that it's great tape, right? And all right, so it says, okay, you're doing great. Let's go to the last one. So let's go. It says tongue or ear. Drag the type of a sleep to its corresponding example. So it says a speaker intends to say a cup of coffee, but produces cup of coffee. So this is a slip of the tongue, right? Because we are talking about speaking. Let's put it here. And then it says a speaker intends to say the sky is falling, but the listener understands the sky is falling. So we are talking about here about the listener and about understanding. So this is an slip of the ear. All right, so mission complete. And we have our next letter, that is letter G. So let's remember that. And now we have unlocked mission 5. Let's go. Mission 5, diagnose the patient. Number of items, 4. So let's go. It says, what condition does this describe? A patient has difficulty with language because of a localized brain damage. So this is aphasia because, well, sometimes we can commit errors like malapropism, or sometimes we can forget what we want to say, like a tip of the tongue phenomenon, or sometimes we can misunderstand what other people is saying or misinterpret. But when this happens a lot, then we have to take care of that because it can be a localized brain damage, and that is aphasia. All right, so let's go to the next one. And it says, what can aphasia affect? Which statement best describes aphasia? Okay, so it says it can affect language comprehension, language production, or both. It only occurs during childhood. It only affects a person's ability to pronounce sounds. It only affects hearing. So it can affect language comprehension and language production, or both. It cannot be, it only occurs during childhood because this can happen at any age. And it cannot be, it only affects a person's ability to pronounce sounds, or it affects only hearing. Why? Because aphasia can be because of you have a brain damage either on the Broca's area or the Wernicke's area. So it can affect both, or just the language production or the language comprehension, but it can happen anywhere. So let's choose this one. All right. So let's go to the next one. Amazing. You have finished the first item. Let's go to the next one. And well, it says drag the hand to the correct diagnosis. Patient A. Patient can understand what other people say, but has great difficulty producing a speech. His speech is slow and effortful, and he often leaves out grammatical markers. All right, so let's remember that the patient can understand. So it cannot be Wernicke's aphasia because Wernicke's is the one in charge of understanding, but has great difficulty producing a speech. So it has to be Broca's aphasia, right? Because the conduction is working because he's understanding. The problem is that he cannot produce, right? Right, so patient B, it says patient B speaks fluently, but what they say can be difficult to understand. They also have difficulty understanding spoken language. So this one is Wernicke's aphasia. Why? Because they have difficulty understanding spoken language, and also what they speak is difficult to understand. So let's go to Wernicke's aphasia. All right, and last, patient C speaks fluently and generally speaks what others say. However, the patient has great difficulty repeating words and phrases. This is conduction aphasia because the speech and comprehension are relatively preserved, but the patient has difficulty repeating words or phrases. And this type of, this type of conduction aphasia, or this type of aphasia, is associated with the image to the arcuate fasciculus. So let's choose this one. And we just completed another mission. And well, we have earned the next letter of our code, and it's U. All right, so let's go to mission number 6. And mission 6 is left or right, and it has 3 items. So let's go. The 2 ears test. In a decotic listening experiment, different sounds are presented at different times to the same ear, simultaneously to the 2 ears, only to the right ear, only to the left ear. So this one is simultaneously to the 2 ears because different sounds are presented simultaneously, and participants then identify what they heard. That's why it's simultaneously. Right, let's go to participants are asked to identify the sounds they hear. The results show that they identify sounds presented to the right ear correctly more often than sounds presented to the left ear. What is this pattern called? So this is right ear advantage. Why? Because the sounds presented to the right ear are identified correctly more often. All right, so let's go to the next page. And it says that we have to go to the next item, and it says drag the hand to the correct answer. A spoken sound is presented to the right ear. According to the explanation in the chapter, which hemisphere receives this information directly. So it says that it is presented to the right ear. So it's the left hemisphere that it's going to be receiving that. All right. So the next question is, well, it says complete the pathway, right ear, language processing, left hemisphere. All right. Let's go to the next one. All right, let's see. It says analyze the evidence experiment report. Right ear, 18 correct identifications, and left ear, 11 correct identifications. So what conclusion is most consistent with the results? So we have the right hemisphere is specialized for language. The left hemisphere has an important role in language processing, and both hemispheres process language identically, and the left hemisphere has an important role in language processing. So is the left hemisphere has an important role in language processing. Why? Because the right ear has advantage because, well, the information is sent to the left hemisphere. So this is why we have 18 correct identifications, but in the left ear, 11 correct identifications. It's because the left hemisphere has an important, more important role in language processing than the right hemisphere. All right, let's go to what does the other hemisphere do? According to the chapter, which type of processing is associated with a more strongly with the right hemisphere? Language sounds and analytic processing. And it says, only speech production, many non-linguistic sounds and holistic processing, only grammatical processing. And it is many non-linguistic sounds and holistic processing. While the left hemisphere is more associated with language and sounds processing, the right hemisphere is the one that processes non-linguistic sounds and holistic processing. So it's this one. All right. So we just completed another mission, and the next letter is letter A. So let's go and let's go to the mission number 7. And it says mission 7, the critical window, number of items 1 and 2. All right, so the critical period exercise 1, according to the chapter, what is the critical period for language acquisition? And it says from birth until puberty, from puberty until adulthood, only during the first year of life, from childhood until old age. So it's from birth until puberty. The chapters said that this is the critical period when a child can learn a language or any other language. It says that it's more difficult when we grow up out of that age. So let's choose that one. All right, so it says, why is this the period considered critical? Because language can only be learned during this period, because the brain is especially prepared for language acquisition during this period, because children cannot learn other skills during this period, because language disappears after puberty. Okay, it's the because the brain is especially prepared for language acquisition during this period. And the others are, well, are incorrect because it's not true that we cannot learn another language or other skills when we are adolescents or adults, but the brain is especially prepared during this period of time for us to acquire language. So this is the answer. So let's go to the last one. And it says exercise 1, place each statement into the correct category box during the critical period after the critical period. So it says the brain is especially prepared for language acquisition. We just learned that this happens during the critical period. Then it says language acquisition might become more difficult. It is after the critical period. And this is not impossible, but it's more difficult. The period extends from birth until puberty. This is during the critical period. And the brain spatial readiness for language decreases after this period. As I said, it is not difficult, but it decreases, and this is after the critical period. All right, so we just finished the mission, and we have the next letter, and it's letter G. So we just have one final mission, and this is the mission number 8. So let's go to that one. And it's mission 8, the Genie case, and it has 3 items. All right, so meet Genie. Genie was discovered at what age? And in the chapter said that she was discovered at 13 years old. All right. And well, it says, what did Genie case provide evidence for? That language is learned only through imitation, that there might be a critical period for language acquisition, that language is processed only in the right hemisphere, that children cannot learn language after birth. Well, she helped us find evidence for that there might be a critical period for language acquisition. As we might know, in the chapter says that Genie was found when she was 13 years old, but she was she didn't know how to speak because she was always in a silent place because of his father. So when they found her, they tried to help her start her normal life. However, she couldn't speak or understand at the beginning. So this helped understand that the theory that there is a critical period was true. So that's the answer. All right, and let's go to the next item. And it says the final mystery. Ginny developed some ability to use and understand language, but her syntax remained very simple. What does this suggest about the critical period? It says language can always be acquired normally regardless of age. The critical period might affect the ability to develop language fully. The critical period has no relationship to language. Language development is impossible after puberty. And is this one, the critical period might affect the ability to develop language fully? Why? Because it's true that she started to develop some ability to understand language, but it was difficult for her to do complete or speak complete sentences. It says that her way to communicate was very simple. So it's not true that you can acquire language regardless of age, but it's not impossible, but in a very simple way. And it's also not true that critical period has no relationship to language, since we can see that it did with her. And it's not true that language development is impossible after puberty, because she was 13 years old at that time, so she was passing the age of puberty and she was an adolescent, but she did it even though it was very simple. And well, we have one last item, and it says the unexpected twist. Jenny did not show the critical left hemisphere language facility. Instead, evidence suggested that she used her right hemisphere for some language functions. All right, so what does this case suggest? The left hemisphere has no role in language. The right hemisphere always controls language. Language does not depend on the brain. Language processing might involve more complex brain organization than a simple localization of language in specific areas. And is the last one. Why? Because the left hemisphere does have a really great role in language, even though Ginny used her right hemisphere, it doesn't mean that her left hemisphere wasn't important for language. Then we have the right hemisphere always controls language. That's not true, as we just learned before. This hemisphere is used more for other types of non-language sounds and for holistic abilities. And then we have language that does not depend on the brain. Of course, it depends on the brain. We have this machine that conducts everything that we do, right? So it does depend on the brain. But it says that language processing might involve more complex brain organization that just the left hemisphere is in charge of language. No, it's more than that, right? So let's put this one, and it's correct. So we just completed the mission. It says, congratulations, you just finished all your missions. The last letter of your code is E. So do you remember all the letters? Let's see. It says enter your code to exit. And let's enter. Do you remember? It was language. All right, so let's send it. And we can finally exit, and we escaped. So thank you very much for watching my video and enjoying it with me. And thank you for your time.